Well, you never know. Sometimes, a lot of times you're surprised. But I did drive by the property, but I submitted an offer because I wanted to be the first one. I didn't even have the money
Okay.
when I submitted the
Wow.
offer.
Wow.
Yeah, I submitted a cash offer at $120,000. I knew the ARV was at least $200,000.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be the first one in. And when I went to drive by the property, there are already cars there. So I knew it was good, at
Yes.
least good enough for other investors.
Hey everybody, this is Melvin Johnson, episode 5, or excuse me, episode 6 of Processing the Process. I'm here with Bo. Kind of before we get into this episode, I just wanted to welcome all of the new viewers that may be here for the first time. Just so you know, you will hear some real life and true inspirational stories, some real life lessons. But this show is about processing the process. And what that actually means is identifying successful individuals in their field and understanding how they became successful. I believe that success is not a finish line, but it's a journey getting up to that. So we definitely want to dive deep into that process and how Bo got there, where she is now, and where she's continuing to go, and kind of really pick up some gems and some jewels and some nuggets that hopefully we can all take away and learn from. So again, without further ado, Bo, please introduce yourself and let everybody know what's going on in your life, and we can kind of jam from there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, Melvin. I am so honored to be here.
It's my
Uh,
pleasure.
my name is Bo Defenbaugh, and I am a mom and real estate investor. I guess
Nice.
that's my thing, real estate.
Real estate is a really good business. Obviously, a lot of people want to get into it.
Hmm.
I think anyone can. A lot of people don't. I think there's a lot that goes into it that maybe people don't know about. Hopefully, we can
Hmm.
get into a little bit of the things that you do. But before we get into your real estate investment side, give us a little bit more context about Bo. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? Give us a little bit about your entrepreneurial spirit and where that came from.
Sure, yeah. So my family is from Laos. They immigrated here during the Vietnam conflict. So I was born and raised here, grew up in the Katy area of Houston, Texas. And I don't know where my entrepreneurial side came from. I guess it's just trying to be resourceful.
Really?
Yeah. So being first generation here, I think my parents were just trying to figure it
Uh
out.
huh.
And my sister and I were kind of they were busy working, so they worked shift work. And so
Okay.
my mom worked like the daytime, and my dad worked the evening time. And we were just kind of not left to figure out on our own. But there are a lot of things that I think now, being a parent,
Hmm.
um, we were, you know, left to be resourceful and do things on our own.
That makes sense. Like you guys,
Mm.
so it was just you and your sister.
Yeah.
I'm always interested. So you guys were I guess, the first generation here in
Hmm.
the U.S., which I think is fantastic. I think like, first generations have a lot to offer because you guys have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like me that's born here, we just, everything is happy-go-lucky. But for you, I think you may have had a deeper understanding
Hmm.
of the privileges that are allotted to myself, where I was
Hmm.
just born into it, to where, you had the opportunity to see your parents working the way they did.
Yeah.
And that you think that maybe gave you and your sister possibly a deeper appreciation or a deeper drive
Yeah,
for a
I
work
think
ethic that
so.
most people just don't have?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's something to it. You know, when we grew up in Katy, we grew up in, I remember, um, I was definitely one of the minorities. I went to ESL first because,
Hmm.
my grandmother basically raised my sister and I, and then so she didn't speak English.
Hmm.
And I remember going to ESL, and I remember doing things and wanting to kind of adapt to my environment, my school, my friends.
Uh-huh.
And everybody was kind of like predominantly white American, and felt more, I knew I was different, but I felt the same.
Yeah.
So some of the things I remember wanting to do, like being in brownies, like Girl Scouts, and going to like extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
My mom was didn't see value in that. For her, it was just an expense,
Uh-huh.
and she
That makes
wasn't really
sense.
involved. But I was very social, and I like to be involved. But I found the way to be involved is I had to get my own carpool and figure out my ride to school. If I,
So you were independent from a very young age,
yeah,
just naturally, like it was like, okay, if I want to do this, I have to figure it out.
yes,
Thus, you became more independent.
I think so. But I think when I was trying to figure out, like, in fifth grade, I wanted to be in safety patrol.
Uh huh.
And I was a captain. This sounds so silly, but I was a captain of safety patrol. And we had to get there early before school started to raise the American flag
Uh
and
huh.
the Texas
Yep.
flag.
I know.
And yeah, so in order to go to school, I found a mom in my neighborhood. It was a friend. Her mom taught at the school, so they had to go to school early. So I would just catch a ride with them, and I
So
didn't.
you were piecing two and two together at a young age. Like, okay, I know you have to be here. You're my friend. If I ask you, maybe I
Yeah,
can get to school early.
yes, because my mom left at 4 a.m. to go to work. She worked at Compaq.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yep.
So my mom left for 4 a.m. And then my dad had just come home at 3 from his shift work, so they couldn't get me to school
Wow.
other than the bus. So just things like that, I had to be really resourceful. I didn't feel like I was neglected in any way. I just
Yeah.
felt like that's kind
Absolutely.
of how things went. And all the sports I played softball, I ran track. This is all in junior high. I
Uh huh.
wasn't really good. Volleyball. But if I wanted to do any of that, I had to have a ride. And so it forced me to be social and polite and make
Mm-hmm.
friends if I wanted to do any of those
Wow. Which all
activities.
sounds like are very good qualities for any entrepreneur or anyone in business that is
Hmm.
trying to obviously sell themselves. So leading up, so from let's kind of fast forward a little bit from let's say high school or
Hmm.
college up until where you are. Before you got into the real estate investment, what jobs did you have? What led you to real estate investment? How did you get there? Like what was
Yeah.
that journey getting to where you
Well,
are?
it's definitely a long road. I had a lot of odd jobs in high school. I think a lot of people do, but I've
Mm-hmm.
been working since I was 15.
Okay.
And then in college, I went to the University of Houston. I worked and paid for my college tuition.
Where were you working at while in school doing that?
I worked at a restaurant. I worked at a bank.
Wherever you
I
could.
worked, yeah, wherever I could. And like U of H is a commuter school. It's
Mm-hmm.
notorious for it being a commuter school. So I just uh, put all my classes on like Tuesday, Thursday, scheduled my classes on Tuesday, Thursday, and worked the rest of the time. I mean, so I did that, and then I got into the program for excellence in selling at the Bauer Business School at U of H, and that kind of trains you to be in sales. I
Okay.
didn't know that really. I didn't know what I was doing, but I sold a sponsorship to a real estate company and a broker, and I ended up getting my license while I was in college, and straight out of graduation started working for that firm.
Wow, so that was your first toe into real estate, and
Hmm.
I'm assuming you gained a passion for it from being there. Would that be
Yeah.
safe to say?
I mean, my passion, I think it was a found passion because at the beginning, it's such a grind,
Yeah.
real estate sales. Like
Yes.
any sales, when you're trying to build up your network, I was 21.
Hmm.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I had good first year success. And then you learn throughout. I went from real estate agency sales to new home sales with the builder.
Okay.
And then it was during really good times, 2003 to 2007. And then '08 was when the market crashed. And that's kind of when you start to figure things out.
Understood.
Yeah.
So just to get a little bit more context for anyone that's listening to understand the
Mhm.
success, what when you say success, what success did you have in that brief time as a realtor or real estate
I
agent?
mean, I won top producer awards, and I was in my early 20s making uh, well over six figures. That's not the, I thought making, just like $100,000 is great,
Uh-huh.
but it was, my income was
Making really good
significantly
money.
more than that,
Hmm.
being, young and stupid with not stupid. Can I say that? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
sure. I mean, you're not stupid,
I
but
was inexperienced and I didn't know. And with that success, for me then it was financial success, but everything else was I was still trying to figure things out.
absolutely. So you had tremendous amount of success, which is something we can just probably talk about the entire episode because I don't think anyone is a top of their class in any profession without there being a path to that success to get there. But obviously, you had a level of success, had a top producer, which was fantastic, and then you kind of transitioned and saw the path of where you are now, which is real estate investment. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, it took a while to
Okay.
get to that road. I think I had a lot of trial and error, lots of error, um, and I've always wanted to invest in my own real estate, and I did then, but I just didn't know how to keep it.
What do you
So
mean? Invest in your own real estate? Like you wanted to
buy
buy
my own
own
properties and
and
keep, yeah.
flip it. Well, not flip it, but you want to keep it and rent it out and make that income off of that.
Yes, yes. But at that time, um, it was very easy to get money, very easy to get credit, very easy to buy
Hmm.
houses, and um, I was making a really good income, so I was just buying property and I guess flipping it, not really doing the work, but just buying it well
Hmm.
and then selling it down the road because there are mainly new construction houses that I had an interest in the neighborhood or was selling it. But I had this one property that I bought in, I'll just say inside the loop of Houston.
Okay.
And everybody thought I was crazy for buying it because it backed it to a train. But I knew that the train was going through a no blow zone. Like
Okay.
it was going to be, they weren't going to be able to blow their horn. And it was
Understood
in
at
a
night.
very,
Okay.
yeah, prime area. So I won that house, won that bid over a builder. It was $350,000 for that lot.
Awesome.
And the no blow zone happened, and the plan was to build like a McMansion or a spec home on it.
Okay.
But the crash happened, and I wasn't prepared, financial prepared to keep
To
the
weather that
house
storm.
to weather that
Hmm.
storm. So it's my property I look back on as a good learning experience. Now they're selling a house on there for just under 2 million.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a moment, is a good learning moment. Um, and it wasn't until recently, like in the last year, that I finally figured out how to do it.
Wow. So let's kind of dive into that. So obviously, I believe, and a lot of people have said that you didn't lose, you didn't do it, you learned a lesson. So that was
Yeah.
definitely a lesson that you learned. Obviously, it's probably one of the biggest ones that you're gonna go back to and think about
Yeah.
and talk about because that was a significant financial gain if you were
Mhm.
able to weather that storm.
Right.
However, the lesson I'm pretty sure it can take you tenfolds amount of that just from the way that you apply to your business now.
Hmm.
What other lessons have you learned now that you're a little bit more seasoned in this industry that you can share with someone?
I think buying right and being not being emotional with these purchases, I
Hmm.
think, or acquisitions, um, I've become unemotional. Is that a word? I've become um, really focused on the numbers
Yeah,
and if it makes sense.
it's all business. It's not too
Right.
much emotion like how an individual like myself would want to go and buy a property now where I love the bedroom, I love the kitchen. For you, it's
Yes.
definitely numbers. What's my return on this investment right away?
Yes. And even the house we live in,
Hmm.
we focus on quality of life with especially time with our family and time with our children
Hmm.
and because that is the ultimate resource is time. And
Absolutely.
so the reason why we are focusing more on cash flowing property is so that we could have time with our kids. So when I was selling new homes and selling real estate. It's a grind,
Yeah.
and the income is great,
There
but
was a
it's
sacrifice on the back end of that and the
exactly.
family.
Exactly. So, just in the past year, while I was like in my third trimester pregnant, we bought four rentals that we fixed and rented. And it's just an equity and cash flow play.
Awesome.
Hmm.
So I do not know much about real
Hmm.
estate in terms of the way that you may know about it. I know it as just a consumer that have purchased now my second home and have a general understanding, probably from
Hmm.
watching HGTV or whatever or something like that.
Yeah.
So, you know, learning about the investment real estate, what would you say? Obviously, doing your research, location is probably one of the biggest things that I hear when it comes to real estate.
Hmm.
But what are some things that you look for in a property that you're looking to invest in?
Sure.
What are some tips that maybe someone in the real estate field that is just getting into it or thinking about real estate investment, like what are some of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis that most people don't, rather that's you're staying up at 2
Hmm.
a.m. on this certain list because it
Hmm.
comes out? Like, what are any little key tricks
Yeah.
or things to be done?
So, speaking of processing the process, what really stands out to me last year is what I was doing almost religiously was I was waking up early. I read this book called The Miracle Morning.
The Miracle Morning.
Yes,
Okay.
by Hal Elrod. And it is an incredible book. So I focused on that process.
Okay.
So I woke up early. I would read my gratitude list. I would meditate, and I would journal.
Okay.
And then I was pregnant, so I would do some light yoga on YouTube, like a 10-minute session. I would do all of this within an hour. So it gave me a lot of clarity when I woke up.
Understood.
It gave me a lot of clarity for the day. It made me very productive. So I would say most successful people have some sort of process and meditation in their day to day routine.
It's like an opportunity for you to slow down, listen to
Hmm.
whatever, or just calm down before the storm and emails and everything else, and life happens.
Yes, exactly. And it puts into things it put things into perspective and why you're doing the things you're doing. Because if you start off your day in a rush, like I have been lately, I haven't been a really good student of the Miracle Morning. But if you start off like uh, running late, rushing, the rest of your day is feels exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So I really believe in the miracle morning and waking up an hour earlier than everybody else because you have that focused time for yourself.
Okay.
And so that's what I did. And I think that's really what helped me find the properties. Like one of the things I set on the multiple listing service some parameters.
Okay.
I wouldn't look at anything that was over $65 a foot. And because I'm a realtor and I have trade knowledge or experience of how neighborhoods are performing, I just kind of knew. So I set my criteria in certain neighborhoods that I wanted to have in my portfolio,
Okay.
and the rental rate would have to be at least 1% of what my mortgage is. So, for example,
Okay.
if it's leasing for $1,600 a month, I would have no more than $160,000 into the property, including construction costs, acquisition costs, and loan fees.
That's a really big nugget. A
Yes.
really good jewel for anyone that's looking to get into this field.
Yeah. So the key is to buy well. So I'm buying at about 70%
Okay.
of the ARV. So after repair value.
Okay.
So one of the deals I'll tell you is I bought a house for $120,000. It was listed. It popped up on my list on my MLS records, and I just submitted an offer. I knew it was a good deal.
Sight unseen.
Sight unseen.
From your education prior to in real estate and
Yes.
and being in that process and being a steward of the industry, you already knew that that was a good deal, no matter
Yes.
what the condition, although you may had some idea what the condition was, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, you never know. Sometimes, a lot of times you're surprised. But I did drive by the property, but I submitted an offer because I wanted to be the first one. I didn't even have the money
Okay.
when I submitted the
Wow.
offer.
Wow.
Yeah, I submitted a cash offer at $120,000. I knew the ARV was at least $200,000.
Okay.
So I just wanted to be the first one in. And when I went to drive by the property, there are already cars there. So I knew it was good,
Yes.
at least good enough for other investors.
To be interested in it.
Yeah, because once it hits the multiple listing service, you have a lot of competition.
Correct.
And so I just wanted to be first one in, and I submitted a very clean, non-contingent offer, and I figured I would find the money somewhere.
I'm assuming that you did.
I did.
Did they accept that offer at least?
Yes, they accepted
perfect.
the offer because I was first one in.
First one in. Mm-hmm. You knew what you were doing.
Full
was
price.
able to find the money. Mm-hmm. And is that a property? Is that one of your first property? Just a property that you can recall that's how that
it just was a property I bought
Okay.
last year in September.
Wow.
So typically when you're buying, at 70%, you can get a hard money loan.
Mm-hmm.
And hard money loan is a short-term loan at a higher rate. But if you could turn it around with construction and refinance out of that short-term loan,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I could do that.
Okay.
The first part of doing anything is just taking action. You can talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, but if you don't do it, I think is the biggest failure because you never know.
Absolutely. You don't know the alternative. Sometimes you just have to just jump out there and take the leap of faith and let
Mm-hmm.
it happen.
Yes, yeah. So I did it. I got it accepted. I have a partner in my flipping. I flip houses as well. And he's my capital partner.
Okay.
And I just asked him if he would do the deal. And we agreed to our terms. And I've returned the money to him in 3 months. I just
Wow.
refinanced out of the deal. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I did this all of it in my third trimester.
All in the third trimester. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
So let me ask you this: when you talk about flipping houses, and I said I don't know much. I really don't know much, but I probably know just a little bit more, maybe than the average person, possibly. Mm-hmm. The question I have for you is about the flipping process. How do you navigate the waters of the contracting world, the general contractor, the project manager?
Yeah.
How have you had success in navigating those treacherous waters of the contracting world?
That's probably another show.
I'm sure, because when I hear it, and hopefully everyone at this point understands what I'm talking about. But that's probably some of the biggest fears that I think that an individual like myself or someone that wants to jump into the waters, like just take a leap of faith, is okay. Now I have to find the individuals that are going to fix this house up, and obviously you don't want to be taken advantage of.
Yeah,
I would imagine that you have to just get out there and just learn and just do it once, do it twice, and just learn as you go.
Right. The beauty of our times now is that we have so much available resources like YouTube
Absolutely.
and Instagram or anything online. You could kind of figure things out. But managing contractors, it's tough. But what we learned is I actually GC the work myself.
Awesome.
And so you could find good work and you get what you pay for. So, and we learned that, and it's all a process and you don't know until you actually do more. You get better and better and better at negotiating. But the key to anything in real estate is buying the deal, is finding the deal and buying the deal. Because if you buy well enough, your mistakes can be absorbed. If you don't, there's no coming back from it.
Yeah.
There's just no coming back. You're not going to save money on construction and you're not going to get time back. And those are the two biggest variables. Mm-hmm. So, and the market can change. So,
can change quickly.
Yeah, I sold a flip earlier this year. I thought I was going to get just north of 500 and we ended up closing just south of 500, and that ended up being a significant margin for our total project.
Wow.
So, but every day I look back at it, the deal that works out the best is the ones that we buy the best value.
Yeah.
So the ones that you don't get overly optimistic with, you just have to really stick with stick true to the numbers. Don't buy anything over 70% ARV. If you do go over that 70, some people buy 75% ARV, but if you don't have the skill set to do the construction, or you don't have the skill set on the sales side, then you know you have to buy at a lower percentage.
Understood.
So
How disciplined are you when it comes to the numbers and the figures that you want to hit? Like, I know I'm thinking of it because I think the emotion comes into it where you get away from
yeah.
the disciplines that you have put in place. But are there times in certain properties that maybe your emotions do play a little bit a part of it, whether it is the neighborhood or just the house, and you say, you know what, this isn't the 70, it's more on the 75 or maybe even close to 80. Do you stick very true to your numbers and take emotions out of it completely? Or
It's hard. The first flip I did, I think I bought it $40,000 over than what I should have.
Okay.
But it was like the first flip. I thought that we could absorb those numbers based on the reputation of the neighborhood, but it was previously flooded property, and that was a huge variable. So when we put it up for sale, it got an insane amount of traffic, but did not sell. So we ended up leasing the property, and then the following year when the tenant moved out, we put it back on the market and got multiple offers.
Wow.
But what I think I overpaid for it because other properties in that area sold for less because people were nervous about the flood.
Understood.
So that was a huge lesson in so many ways.
Well, speaking of, like, you said something interesting. Can you kind of guide me through the way your process in which you think about a flipping versus a lease? And you just want to be
so different.
Like, the story that you just told was a great example. Is it, let's say if you bought a house that you plan on flipping, if it doesn't flip, let's say once construction is complete, it's ready, it's put on the market to flip. If you don't sell it within 90 days, then are you thinking about leasing it out? Do you have a method in which that you handle situations like that?
Yes. Well, it all depends on your debt and what your carry cost is.
Okay.
So if you're getting a short-term loan, which is a hard money loan, it's usually a 6-month term. So if construction takes you 3 months, it was a gut reno. It took me almost 4 months to complete the house.
Okay.
I didn't get hard money on this house.
Deal. Okay.
I usually don't get hard money on my flips. Because my flips are basically like new builds. They're new construction, essentially. So there's not enough time. But most flippers do use hard money loans, and so they may not take on a project like that. So to answer your question, if you have a hard money debt, or you carry that kind of debt, you can't... it's not likely that you're going to lease it because they're going to call the loan. What you could do, your exit strategy could be to refinance it and hold it onto it as a rental, but your cash flow may be wiped out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to do it on a higher end property because properties in Houston do not rent out for that much money.
Understood.
A $400,000 house doesn't necessarily rent out for $4,000 a month. This house it was in the mid fours, but it was leasing for $2,800.
Okay.
And the reason why we're able to hold it on for long term is because we didn't have any debt on the property.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have a wealth of knowledge in this industry, and I know that someone can talk for hours and hours and hours about everything real estate, and I can see you have a passion for it, and it just comes like second nature to you.
Yeah.
But I really do appreciate it. Is there any parting shots that you kind of want to leave with anyone that may be thinking about getting into it, or they're on the ledge thinking about buying their first property and they don't know if they should or they shouldn't? Is there any little small advice you want to give to that person that's on the verge of making their first purchase?
Yeah, I would say build a team around you. Um, Focus on what your strengths are. Like you have to really know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then build a team around your weakness. Don't take on somebody because you get along with them. Like my partner is a capital partner. He is basically my capital, and I do everything else because I know I don't know construction,
Mm-hmm.
but I know enough. And then so maybe I need to hire a good GC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can find the deal. That's the hard part. But don't be afraid to go talk to your neighbors or drive by a house that you think is, dilapidated. Don't be afraid to knock on that door and ask them if they're interested in buying.
Interesting.
Because if if you want to do a deal, it's difficult to find a deal. Find the deal and partner with somebody to help you take it on.
Partnerships.
Not
Par-
necessarily partnerships, like definitely don't do a general
yeah.
partnership, but partner in a way that makes sense for a seasoned um, investor to do the deal with you.
Understood. I know we're kind of closing out, but I do have a really quick question that I do want to ask. Do you see benefit in someone working for free or as an intern, rather it's for
Yes.
you or someone like you? What do you? That's the big value that you said is a big yes. Is like do it
Yes.
immediately.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Because I feel like in this business, there's a lot of hustle and grind, and it's kind of rare to come across people that will do the work. And one of the things I have experienced in this business, I've been a realtor since 2003. I have a friend that flips hundreds of houses.
Wow.
An opportunity came across my desk, and as much as I wanted to do it, I was nervous, and I sent him the deal, but I sent him the deal with the expectation that I was going to be involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I got the courage to do my own deal.
Okay.
So I provided him value by bringing him a deal that yielded him over six figures in profit. And he's essentially my mentor. He picks up my calls, he returns my text messages, he's given me trade info, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
that's how it works.
Yeah,
He doesn't
absolutely.
really know that he's not my mentor per se, but that's you bring value to people that you want to learn from.
That's a big one right there. Bringing value to people. I said before we started and turned on the cameras. I really said I wanted to bring value for anyone that's listening. Nothing more, but just if someone can listen to your story and say, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just jump in and do my first property and kind of hear this and hear a little bit of your story because there's so much more to it. But just a little bit, just bring value and working for free. Anyone that's heard a few of the episodes, that's been a reoccurring theme is working for free, being consistent, um, expanding your network. That individuals may be
Yes.
your mentor one day, or just someone you can lean on, or someone that right now could potentially at some point be a capital investor to that. But you just have to be open and learn. Well, I appreciate you so much for being on and sharing your story. It was really fun and have an opportunity to be here with you and sit down. Here at Processing the Process, I kind of leave a little parting shot. It's a question. It can be a two-part question if you want to keep it for a personal as well as a professional level. But is there any individual that you would like to do business with that you just want to throw out in the atmosphere as like your wish list that, you know what, I really would love to do a deal with this person. I just want to meet this person for his business. Please share that. And if it's a personal one as well, that's unrelated to business, you can share that as well. But is there anyone that's on your radar that you just want to put in the atmosphere and maybe it'll happen?
Oh, that is such a good question. Um, if I could do a deal with anybody, um,
I know it's a little hard being on the spot, right?
I know, right? Okay, so I will say any of the guys. So I listen to real estate
Uh-huh.
podcasts, and um, one of the first books that I read in college is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes. I think everyone read that great book.
Everyone reads that somehow, but it's like so great. So if Robert Kiyosaki and Ken McElroy were ever to do a deal, a multifamily deal or something with me, that would be amazing.
I think that would be amazing. It's in the air. It's living out there forever. So it could be 3 years from now if someone hears this or watches this and was like, "That's my uncle. That's my dad. Who this is my neighbor." Please get these two individuals together. That'd be such an amazing opportunity. But if anybody wanted to contact you or reach you, what's the best way? You have a whatever. Is there any way that anyone can reach you, or you're a little bit more private? Totally up
I
to
do
you.
like to be a little bit more private,
Understood.
but being a realtor, if you just Google my name, that sounds so awful that I just like I'm popular.
Google me.
But
No,
there's
it's
not very
fine.
many Bo Defenbaugh out there. But I do. I'm a local realtor at Houston, and it's pretty obvious where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for being on. It was a pleasure, and I couldn't say thank you enough. So,
Thank
thank you.
you.
Absolutely. Perfect. It's over.
All right, that
Hopefully, it
wasn't
wasn't
bad.
too long.
I hope you probably have a lot of editing.